On this week's episode of Fishing 411 TV, Mark and Jake Romanack travel to one of the most scenic lakes in northern Michigan. Located in northern Lower Michigan, Mullet Lake is one of several lakes in the region that offer outstanding trout fishing action. Most of these lakes are regularly stocked by the Michigan DNR with rainbow, brown, and lake trout. But Mullet Lake is unique in that the rainbow trout that spend their summers here are a wild strain from the Sturgeon River. This fishery is so secret that even the locals have no clue that Mullet Lake is home to an amazing population of wild and woolly rainbow trout.
Hooked up. I'm guessing that this probably isn't the silver species that we were after earlier, and we're still after those. But it didn't really pound too hard on the rigger. I'm guessing it's probably a walleye. Slid up in a little bit shallower water. That's a really cool thing about Mullet Lake is you got warm water species and cold water species.
Are you telling me you need the small net?
Looks like a nice walleye.
Jake, I'm gonna have you back up so I can get in there, and that's where I'm gonna take him, is right here on this corner.
What is that?
That might be another rainbow. Just a smaller rainbow.
Just a small rainbow?
No, it's a brown trout.
Really?
It's a brown trout.
Very cool.
That is, oh, that's beyond cool. That is super cool. Hey.
That's actually a first for me on Mullet Lake.
I've never caught a brown on Mullet Lake either.
Not a giant, but what a gorgeous fish. Look at those spots. Absolutely gorgeous. I was thinking this fish was going to be a walleye. We slid up a little bit shallower. A lot of times on Mullet Lake you can catch walleyes and rainbows mixed together, but a brown trout's a new one for me. Never know what you're going to catch on Mullet Lake.
Well, we can flesh out what we're going to be doing today. It's the end of summer and the water temperatures are still very warm. Surface temperatures mid-70s, and so when you're targeting cold water species like rainbow trout, they're just not going to be in that warm water. So you have to use gear that's going to get you down below the surface, and there's a variety of ways that you can do that. What we've chosen to do today is to do a variety of lead core lines. We're going to fish some 5 colors that fish down about 20 feet, some 7 colors will fish down maybe about 30, and we're going to fish some 10 color rigs that should get us down 40, 45 feet. We're also going to use downriggers so that we can have ultimate depth control with the downriggers. With all of those lines in the water, we should be able to saturate the water column from about 20 to 25 feet down to about 60 to 80 feet. And we believe that that's where the better water temperature is going to be, and we believe that's where the rainbows will be as well.
You know, one of the really cool things that we get to do at Fishing 411 is fish out of a lot of different boats. And this new Phantom X2 is a console forward design. It's that West Coast style design. So when we were rigging this boat, this really screamed for a sonar unit at the back of the boat. And depending on your boat and how it's set up, it really depends on how you want things set up. You know, having this unit at the back of the boat is really cool because it gives you that great big picture of your sonar and your GPS right at the back of the boat where you're working and when you're trolling. The unit that's on the console is our main sonar unit. So that means that our transducers are hooked up to that unit. Of course, it has a power cord, but it's kind of our home unit. And then from there, we have a NEMA network system that's run back to the boat. That way I can control my electric motor from this graph back here as well. But more importantly, there's an Ethernet cable. And what an Ethernet cable allows is for these two graphs to talk to each other. So if I was to save a waypoint on this back unit, it would save it up at the console or vice versa. So no matter what I do to this graph, it pairs and does the exact same thing on the console. You can see the downriggers when we're trolling with downriggers. It's just a great big picture to see, and you can control everything to help us catch more fish.
Special considerations provided by Trailmaster Boat Trailers and Lakeside Motorsports. Special considerations provided by Procure, ruthlessly effective bait suds.
We are hooked up again. We've had a beautiful morning here on Mullet. It is absolutely gorgeous. If you're interested in doing this style of fishing, of course we're on Mullet. You can also do this next door on Burt Lake. Higgins Lake has also got, oh, this is a good fish right here. Higgins Lake has also got trout that you can target. Glen Lake up in northwest Michigan has also got rainbows and also lake trout and browns. So there's lots of these inland lakes in northern Michigan that you can do this. This is not the only lake that you can target these fish. And it just so happens that Mullet's close to the house, and we like to come up here. It's beautiful. And by the way, if you enjoy camping, this is also a very, very nice lake to camp on. Aloha State Park is here, and it is one of my favorite state parks in all of Michigan.
I'm going to scoop up here and grab that board for you. There you go.
One of the things that's been happening as the day has progressed, our early bites were high fish, low light, and that doesn't surprise me a bit. As the day has progressed and the sun has gotten higher, most of our bites have come on the deeper stuff, the riggers and the 10 color. And that shouldn't surprise you because essentially these fish
are there we go. Yeah, double going.
Got a double? We got a 7 color going too?
Yep.
Huh. That's a good thing you get interrupted by. So, whoa, that fish just literally said no more. I was gaining ground on him and he just turned and ran. Beautiful, beautiful thing here. So it's not surprising that these fish would drop down in the water column as the day progresses. Woo, look at that.
He's screaming. What you got on there, Papa?
I don't know, but he definitely is angry. You gotta love when that happens. Whoa, just stay buckled up, that's all I want. One of the problems with rainbows is they fight so hard that they often tear loose, and it's just a nature of the beast. So hopefully this guy's gonna tire himself out and we can get him under control. Need help there, Jake? You can do it on your own.
I think mine got off.
You know, we haven't talked too much about the X2 other than we mentioned earlier that it's a new boat for smoker craft. Some of the neat features of this boat's got a 102-inch beam, so it's really wide. It's 33 inches deep, so it's very, very deep. It's got a 19-degree dead rise, and it's got a special hull design you will not see on aluminum boats. It's got something called a V-pad. And if you don't know what a V-pad is, it's a flat spot on the bottom of the hull near the back of the boat that allows it to have more performance, to get up and run better. Believe it or not, this is a big, deep, heavy boat, yet it still runs over 50 miles an hour. So it's got great performance in addition to being a great fishing platform. Jake, I'm going to see a fish here shortly.
Oh, it's a stud, Dad.
It is a good one. And he's not done yet. He is not done yet. Okay, come on, buddy. This is where I get nervous. This is where I get nervous, is when they start getting up close to the surface like this, because this is where they can shake off if you're not careful.
Well either. A little closer.
Come on, baby.
Nice
Nice
scoop, Dad. Off
Jake.
in the net.
Nice scoop. Woo. I'm going to show you the pretty side. I'll give the credit to this fish to the Eagle Claw trocar hook that was in his mouth, because that was the spoon that the hook had broken off from in the previous fish, and I put a trocar on there, and we got him in the boat here. They are razor sharp hooks, and oh my goodness, that is a beautiful fish. Rainbows, Mullet Lake style. Most of the time when we're targeting rainbows at places like Mullet Lake, they tend to be in the deepest water in the basin or the center of the lake. And that's exactly what happens here at Mullet. Right down there in the middle of the lake is the deepest water in the lake, and that's where you'll often find these fish. But sometimes these fish will move closer to the edges. And in this case, what's happening is that these rainbows get hungry. They don't necessarily find all the food they want in open water, so they push up next to the structure breaks where it goes from 100 foot of water up to about 40 foot of water. When you get into 40 foot of water, there's more life. There's more minnows, there's more forage, and of course the rainbows are going to come there to feed. Sometimes the temperature may not be ideal, but they'll feed and then drop back out to the cooler water. So it's a good idea to follow these structure breaks in that 40 to 60, 40 to 80 foot of water from time to time to make sure that you're targeting fish that are on the feed.
Let's take a second and talk about spoon size. Obviously today we've talked about that we're fishing spoons, but the size of the spoon that you're going to fish is super important. Now if you're a Great Lakes fisherman, this size spoon that I have in my hand right here is called a standard size. It's right around 4 inches. And it's kind of our go-to spoon when we're fishing big water. But here in this inland lake stuff, we've been finding that a smaller spoon has been working a lot better for us just because it's a smaller forage base. Now this is a mini size, again it's by Wolverine Tackle, this is a mini size spoon and it's right at that 3-inch range, and we've also used the junior streak spoon, it's at that 2-inch range. So these two size spoons are really what's getting it done for us, and really we're just matching the hatch. There's a smaller forage base here in Mullet Lake, so we're using smaller spoons. In the Great Lakes we're fishing where there's bigger forage, so we'll use a bigger spoon. So you want to match that hatch, and that's what it's going to take to put fish in the boat.
Spoons are hard to beat any place that you're going to target rainbows, whether it be on the Great Lakes or in inland waters. Spoons have the right flash and the white wobble. They do a great job of imitating forage. The forage here that these fish are eating are called lake herring, and so spoons do a good job. You can fish any color you want for steelhead as long as it's orange. If those baits have got some orange in them, they're going to get bit. I'm telling you, orange is your primary color. We also like spoons that have either a copper back or spoons that have a gold back. Those are the color combinations with orange that just can't be beat.
Special considerations provided by Daiwa Corporation and Motor Guide. Fight fish, not your trolling motor. Special considerations provided by the Ultimate Sport Show Tour, Michigan's elite sport shows. Eagle Claw presents the 411 on fishing.
Hey, I'm Mark Romanack with Precision Trolling Data. If you're an avid troller, you've probably already come to the conclusion that things like line counter reels are a very important piece of equipment to have on your boat. The problem with line counter reels is that they're factory calibrated for just one line diameter. And as fishermen, of course, we're using lots of different line types and line diameters. But no worries, because any line counter reel can be calibrated to any line type or line diameter that you choose. The first step is to pick the line type, the line diameter, and the brand of line that you want to use, and fill your reel to capacity. But don't cut the line off the spool. Leave the line attached to the spool. The second step is you're going to have to measure in your backyard a predetermined distance, and we recommend 100 feet. The reason we choose 100 feet is because it's approximately right in the middle of the average lead lengths that we use while we're out in the water trolling. The easiest way to accomplish this is to measure off exactly 100 foot, use a couple stakes in the ground, and on those stakes we use an offshore clip just to hold the line in place on the stake. Once you've got your stakes in the ground, you're going to take the line from the end of your reel, attach it to the offshore release, zero out your line counter, and then walk away exactly 100 feet to your other stake. When you consult your line counter, if that number is under 100, that means you're going to have to take line off from your reel. On the other hand, if that number is greater than 100, that means you're going to have to put line onto your reel. And that's why you don't cut the line from the spool until you get the reel calibrated. The process of calibrating the line counter reel is a trial and error process. It takes a few tries to get the perfect amount of line on your reel so they're calibrated. When your line counter reads 100 and you have exactly 100 feet of line out, that reel is perfectly calibrated. That's the way we do it at Precision Trolling Data, and if you want to get the most out of our data, you need to do that with the rods and reels that you're fishing on your boat.
We are hooked up. Man, downriggers never get old. You see that rod buck? It's like every man for himself, whoever can get there first. And then with steelhead, you got to reel like crazy to catch up to them, because they're to the surface like right now, jumping all over the place.
Whoa,
oh, he's
man,
jumping everywhere, Dad.
That is beautiful. That's a nice fish. That looks like it's a bigger fish than I caught.
Oh, man.
One of the nice things I like about this boat is it's got a lot of room back here for net and fish. And And that's what we're about to do here.
You talk about acrobatics. Look at that.
Oh man, that is definitely a good fish.
A little closer, Dad. Scoop them.
Man, that
what
is
a
beautiful.
gorgeous fish.
Beautiful fish, Jake. That
Wow.
that's a great fish. That would be a good fish to be caught in Lake Michigan. Wow.
What an absolute gorgeous specimen, huh,
And
Dad?
girl, it is. That's a nice hand.
Look at that. You know, these are wild fish here in Mullet Lake. And really the cool thing is we're calling them steelhead. And I guess they are steelhead because they're out in the lake. But they resemble more like a rainbow trout. If you really look at that fish, you can see the black specks, that gorgeous color. Absolutely beautiful. So we just caught that last fish on a downrigger. You know what? Downriggers in the Great Lakes and, you know, the Great Lakes region is probably one of the most popular ways for catching trout and salmon. It's my favorite way to catch them because you really can't beat that rod bucking, grabbing a hold of it, and once it pops from the release, it's just you and the fish. But here on Mullet Lake, we're talking about very, very clear water. And so we've had to do some things to get some bites on the downriggers. Because of this clear water, if you were to run that spoon 10 or 15, maybe 20 feet behind the ball, you're just not going to get very many bites. In this clear water, we really lengthen out those leaders. And what I mean by that is the spoon from the downrigger ball itself is about a 100-foot lead. That gets that spoon away from the boat and gives you a lot better chance of actually catching fish. That spoon's close to the boat in combination with the clear water and just the noise from the boat alone, you just don't seem to get very many bites. And so you want to lengthen them leaders from your downrigger ball, get them away from the boat, and you'll catch a lot more fish.
If you're interested in targeting these cold water species in these inland lakes, it's going to be a summertime presentation. You're looking at July and August, and maybe a little bit into September is going to be your best time frame. The reason for that is during the hot part of the summer, the thermocline builds up. And when we get this cold water thermocline, that's where you're going to find these cold water creatures.
Beautiful fish. Absolutely gorgeous.
Whoa, beautiful little rainbow trout. You can see there, it looks like that might be a lamprey scar that's on him. We're at a place called Mullet Lake. It's in northern Michigan, and it's one of our favorite destinations for mixed bag fishing. Beautiful little inland lake rainbow. I love it, Jake.
Special considerations provided by Eagle Claw, the only fish hooks made in America. Additional considerations provided by Fish Hawk Electronics. Trolling without a fish hawk is called boating.
Little dab will do ya. All right, as I'm setting this out, we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing here. That first fish, of course, is a nice little rainbow. Average size here for Mullet Lake. The interesting thing about these rainbows is they are wild fish. Most people think about the inland lakes that we have in northern Michigan, and there are a lot of trout lakes up here. There's quite a few, but most of them are established through stocking. These are wild fish, which is kind of special. The Sturgeon River pours in here, and as a result, these fish go up into the Sturgeon River and spawn, and then they come back and they spend their summers here in Mullet Lake. So not a lot of people know about these fish, and maybe that's why the fishing is so good, but it's a great fishery. It's something special and unique that a lot of people just don't know that they can tap into here in northern Michigan. Over the years, we've caught these trout doing a variety of different things, but overwhelmingly, the best presentation is trolling spoons. And because these fish are deep, there's going to be two primary ways we're going to get there. We're going to get there with sinking lines called lead core line. We're also going to get there with just good old-fashioned downriggers. Both of these presentations work very well for us, so if you can get to the depth that these fish are at and you can present a spoon in front of them, they will bite and you'll have a great time. You know, the rainbows that we caught on Mullet Lake were actually wild fish, but many of the lakes in northern Michigan have a hatchery program where they're stocking different species, rainbows, lake trout, even brown trout. The best way to find out about these is go to the Michigan DNR website. It's just michigandnr.gov, and what'll come up is a list of all the lakes in Michigan that have been stocked and what species have been stocked there. With a little bit of research in front of your computer, you can figure out exactly what lakes I've got lots of stocking going on and where the fishing is going to be the best.
Gotta love that. I was actually just setting this 5-color, and Dad goes, "Jake, you got one on there already?" I'm like, "No, I'm just setting it back," and I click it over and poof, just berries. So
You gotta love it.
well, that's the thing that I love about Mullet Lake, you know, is that it's big water fishing in the scheme that you're using big water gear. You're using lead core and downriggers, divers sometimes if you'd like to. And so it's that big water feel, but we're definitely not on big water. You can be out here in any size boat. You can take your 14-foot John boat out here and catch these steelhead if you want to. So it's a really cool fishery in that you don't have to have all this big expensive stuff to be successful and catch some steelhead. He's thumping pretty good.
So now do you believe me you have a fish on?
I do now. I do now.
You should never second guess the old man.
Hey, I'm just trying to turn around so I can catch more fish, and I'm catching fish, so.
All right, well that's cool. There's some fish high in the water column and there's some fish deep in the water column.
Yeah, you know, this is a 5 color. I'd like to say this is high in the water column, but I was setting it too at the same time.
Oh, could have been fishing a little deeper,
so it was
yeah.
fishing pretty deep.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, we got them coming right here to the boat.
Where are we going to take them, Jake?
Let's take them right over here in the corner.
All right, that works.
We pretty much got them.
Whoa, there we go, I got
There
it.
we go.
He snuck up on me. You got there quicker than I expected.
Basically, my main leader for my leg core is 20-pound test. And it's pretty hefty, but it's meant for catching big kings and fish that pull super hard. But this 20-pound test doesn't give that smaller spoon the right action. I've got a junior streak spoon on here. And so what I've done, instead of cutting all of this fluorocarbon off and retying a smaller leader, you know, just for this style of fishing, what I've done is I've actually tied a 6-foot piece of fluorocarbon that's only 12-pound test. And that gives that spoon the right action. I clipped it on the snap swivel there, and then when I'm done fishing Mullet Lake today, maybe tomorrow I'm going to Lake Michigan, all I have to do is unclip this snap, put a spoon on this end, and I'm back fishing in the big water. So it's a quick way to get that right action and the right amount of line, snap on a 6-foot leader, and you catch a lot more fish.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode at Mullet Lake. My name is Mark Romanack, and you've been watching Fishing 411. If you get a mindset you want to try some of these rainbows in northern Michigan, give it a shout. I think you'll have a great time just like we did. See you here, same time, same place, next week.
Closed captioning provided by Lakeside Motorsports, Michigan's premier marine and power sports dealer. Fishing 411 is brought to you by Offshore Tackle Company, Evinrude Outboards, Starcraft Marine, Cisco Fishing Systems, Yakima Bait, Jay's Sporting Goods, Niagara Falls, USA, Smooth Move Seats, Lowrance Electronics, and by Precision Trolling Data.
That might explain that one coming off. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's something seriously missing there. Hooks are essential for catching steelhead. Yikes!